3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Fours podcast, a podcast from three Puerto Rican friends coming together to talk about Star Wars and other nerd-related media. These are our Cassian Fridays, released on a Monday because, you know, life happens. Where we're talking about Andor episode by episode. Today, focusing on the amazing episode 5, The Axe Forgets. And joining us, we have Oti from El Podcast de Star Wars and Radio Rebellion. Bienvenido, Oti.
Welcome. Keeping it Hispanic on Hispanic Heritage
Puerto Ricans in the house.
How's it going? How's it going thus far? How's your experience been with Andor?
Oh, I've been loving it. It's been different. It's taken some adjusting, but I've been loving it. There's been adjustings in this episode alone that we'll get to, but yeah.
What has been the biggest adjustment though for you and so far for the show?
Star Wars Cocoa Puffs, like what the hell?
Oh yeah,
I love them. I was just like Disney merchandising. Come on,
that was
an adult, but I will eat that cereal.
That's been the closest I've been to like no.
Oh no, I love it. The only thing that I thought I was, and we'll get to that scene obviously, but the only thing that I felt was troubling about it was the so little amount of cereal and so little amount of milk. I was like, whoa, that's not an adult pour. That's baby pour.
Have any of you been to Galaxy's Edge?
No. I have, but like not to the capacity that I should be.
Did you try blue milk?
Yeah. Yes, I did, but it was a little more it was like a frozen drink instead.
Yeah. Okay, so how would that work? Like, it's blue milk is like a berry drink, like a smoothie. So how would you like pour it over cereal?
I think that the Galaxy's Edge blue milk is not the same as the Coruscant cereal blue milk.
Oh, okay.
I think it's kind of nasty though.
Yeah, it's like a milkshake versus just like regular milk, right? The
or maybe the Cocoa Puffs are actually like dehydrated berries or something, and it's like
perhaps
like an acai bowl or something.
We'll need them to like in the next episode.
We need clarification. We need it.
Yeah, when they put the episode guide on StarWars.com, they better have
an explanation here,
especially about Cocoa Puffs, space Cocoa Puffs.
Although, not, what are we doing here?
What's the point, Lucasfilm? Come on, story group. We must have answers. But again, like if Lucasfilm decides to put out a cereal of space Cocoa Puffs, I will buy it.
I don't eat cereal, but I'll buy it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll buy it. I wouldn't eat it though.
You just keep it as a collector's item.
Right.
In 60 years old, this is the Andor.
Hey, some people in 60 years will buy it just so they can.
I know.
I've seen some YouTube stuff. But Cocoa Puffs and blue milk aside, Andor has definitely been quite the journey. And I think like this episode, I thought that they weren't going to follow the formula of waiting till the third episode of the arc to kind of kick things into gear, and that more action-driven plots were going to happen in this episode. However, that didn't happen, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of other things happened in this episode, particularly in terms of exposition, with one of the best characters introduced in the Star Wars canon, our sweet boy, Nemik, and we'll get to that. But I wanted to get like initial reactions from everybody on how they felt about this episode. So let's start with you, Oti, since you have like particularly strong opinions on space Cocoa Puffs. How did you feel about episode 5 of Andor thus far?
So I loved it. I've loved every single episode so far. The main adjusting thing for me has been the whole breaking it into 3, the little arcs. I'm kind of the feeling that they should just like release in bunches of 3.
Yeah.
But I'm also a fan of this because we get to like talk about it for a week and get all those themes like settled. Maybe some of those little moments would get lost if you got the whole arc in one setting. But I've liked it, honestly. I know people have issues, like major issues with that and how much of a slow burn it is.
Oh, I think it's great.
Yeah, no, but I'm liking it.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm a fan of Tony Gilroy's movies like the Bourne trilogy, which are very much a slow burn. So
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Joanne, how about you? How did you feel about this episode?
Oh, I love this episode. I have to say that I loved on this episode, like knowing the part of the infiltration team at Aldani. I have to say it's a great episode. Like I want to see more on, on all this Rebel Alliance and like, how they start on Aldani and everything. I have to say this episode, it's better than the others.
It's been your favorite so far?
Yeah, definitely.
Not to say that the other ones were bad, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Not to say that the other ones are bad.
How about you, Nani? What was your reaction?
I really, really enjoyed it. I was actually not expecting them to do the heist on this episode, so I was happy that they didn't, because you get so much buildup and character development of these, rebel group that was, I think, really, really important to know what their motivations are. So we get this idea of, who's in there for revenge, who's a true believer like Nemik. We got his manifesto, which was amazing. Almost everything that Nemik said is quotable, and it's so good. And
although for some people on the internet, manifestos are bad, though. I'm not gonna name those podcasters / Twitter users, but yeah.
I don't care. I would totally read that manifesto. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get that awkward dinner party with Mon Mothma. Not yet. But instead, we got this amazingly awkward conversations between Syril and his mom, which were so good. So aside from the actual Cocoa Puffs and the blue milk, the conversations were so just awkward and uncomfortable and fantastic. And I really, really enjoyed it. I love a slow burn because there's so much buildup. I love the development of Andor's character, because especially episode 4, he was very quiet, and you could tell that he's just like kind of taking everything in and trying to analyze where everybody's coming from. And he was way more assertive on this episode. It's like he sits back and listens and watches, and then when he's ready to say something, that's when he says something. So I've been really, 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 really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it was a very interesting.
What do you guys think about Cation not revealing actually his positions and beliefs? Like he's a little bit captive about it. So
yeah, I think that's what's interesting about this episode. Right. Is that you can see that like he really doesn't know where he fits in this story, and that he's quiet and reserved. And it's like, he's not showing all of his cards yet as he processes like what he actually wants to do, because obviously he does hate the Empire. He wants there to be no Empire. He wants to help here in this heist, even though like it's only for money. Although by the end of the heist, he might change his mind about like what his position is. But that was the great thing about this episode, is like seeing how those cogs are turning in his mind, especially when he's talking to I forgot the character's name, but the guy that had been in Imperial prison with the tattoos, and like that tension between the two of them, I think was like perfect, because they both came from very similar backgrounds. They've both been through similar things, especially with like their imprisonments and whatnot. But they're approaching their attitudes towards rebellion from completely different sides. Like for him, sorry, I forgot the name again, even though you guys just said it. But for him, it's about revenge, right? It's about revenge and like and being that part of the rebellion, so he can avenge his brother. But for Cassian, it's about survival. It's just like it's like more or less the same thing that Jin said in Rogue One. It's like if you keep your head down, like you'll just survive. So like seeing that journey for Cassian, I think it's the most important thing, and that's why I think the slow burn is what makes the show very compelling. Because otherwise, if you're just going straight into action pieces, you're not getting the quiet moments that make the characters grow.
You're just getting the pew-pews.
You're just getting the pew-pews, and I love pew-pews.
and we get to know other characters as well, just like Nemik. Like he's like talking about his manifesto and stuff like that, and he's hot for his position, and he doesn't even say anything. Like that's the tension we want in this episode.
What about you? What did you think of and Cassian's?
Yeah, no, I think Cassian has his reasons, but I don't think he's quite there on why he's fighting the Empire. I think for so much, we still have a lot to learn about him, but I think he maybe got dragged into the battle against the Republic at one point, and then against the Empire. that he's just doing it because that's what Marva did and Clem did.
Mm-hmm.
But he's now at a position where he's running from what he did in Ferrix, but also he has to come to terms on why he's doing his fighting and a more personal reason rather than my parents used to do that. So
yeah,
I think that's where he is, and I love that he gets to sit with Skeen and Nemik, who have very different reasons to be in the fight, but ultimately come together because of that drive to fight the Empire. And he's saying, yeah, there's a bunch of different reasons why you can do this. So he has to find out where he fits in, which is also kind of like a coming of age story for him. This is like his big twin sons moment. Where do I fit into this galaxy, this fight?
Yeah. But I think that's really clever, like showing like these two characters of approaches to rebellion, because they're both kind of fighting for the same cause, but coming at it from completely different points of view. Where one comes from like an aggressive revenge point of view, and like the Nemik or sweet boy just comes from like this theoretical and moral compass of like
very romantic.
Yeah, it's very it's a romantic view of what rebellion is and what that struggle is, which is why. Like I'm pretty sure that he's not making it out of this one. He's too pure. He's too pure to
he's
like
a different
survive
astronavigator with his idealistic views and stuff. Like he's very pure.
I wish I love. And I saw like someone on Twitter pointed out that like that navigational thing that he has is just a Polaroid camera from like I don't know how many years from like decades ago. And it's like, props to the Lucasfilm prop department, because they know how to transform like all these like innocuous objects into like awesome space gadgets.
Ice cream maker.
Cool. Yeah, ice cream. Yeah, that's the best example, I think. But I want to save Nemik really like for the last part, because I think that whole conversation exposition between him and Andor is just the highlight of that episode. So I wanted to save that for the end. So I wanted to kind of talk about Ferrix, since you brought it up, Oti, which I wasn't expecting Ferrix to kind of show up. I thought like we were done with that. So like the minute we went back to Ferrix, I was just like, oh my God, we're gonna see Bix again. Thank God. We didn't see her this time, but it opened the door to see her again in the future, because there's obviously some unresolved narratives there that we're gonna get back to. But I thought the interesting thing about, and I want to hear everyone's opinion on this, the interesting thing about going back to Ferrix was showing the colonial occupation of the Empire there.
Right.
And how they've just immediately displaced all the power systems there and immediately took possession of objects, like, right? Because they're just dehumanized the whole place and like just took an apartment building, emptied it so that they could just use it as their imperial palace, so to speak. And that spoke to me, because that's what the US has done with like not just Puerto Rico, but like countless other Latin American places and other, territories. So like, and obviously the British Empire, but like to kind of see that colonial tones, right? Like that criticism and just putting it in front row for everyone to see. And it just brings back that point that Star Wars is political and that Star Wars has always been making a statement about these things. But I think Tony Gilroy has been so adamant into pushing that into the forefront and making it text and not subtext that it's really powerful to see, especially when you see it visually and you see that happening. And just, I don't know, I connect to it because we've all lived it and I see it in that way. Hopefully, like other people that have other backgrounds are able to kind of see what they're trying to do with the show and the conversations that they're trying to have in terms of imperialism and colonialism. But I think that Ferrix scene was very poignant in that sense. I want to hear what everyone else thought about that. Oti, let's start with you since you brought Ferrix first.
Yeah, no, it's you basically covered everything, but I love how it's displayed. They just walk in front of a building. He's like, "Hey, you like that building?" And he's like, "Yeah." What do you mean? Oh, do you want it as your office? And it's like, who lived there? Like, what was that like 2 days ago? And it's the Empire. It's I love that it's also kind of subtle because not everything has to be like planet destroying.
Right.
So the one of the things I want to see from this show that we actually got quite a bit in Solo is just that boot of the Empire, how it slowly steps over everything and crushes everything beneath it, just for the sake of it. Like
Yeah, no, I
Just
like,
because
I
they
like that
can.
comment. I like that comment.
Yeah.
You don't have to destroy a planet and kill people to destroy
Yeah.
lives. You can just do it by just oppression, the slight oppression, like they're
And
doing.
there's actually another scene later with the TIE fighter that's also symbolizes how the Empire just does
just because they can.
Yeah, just because they can.
Annie, what do you think of Ferrix? And
I was really surprised when we first saw it again. I was like, oh my god, we're back to Ferrix. This is great. I was really excited to see it, and it's so subtle because it's a small scene, but it's so impactful because when you think back to the first arc, Ferrix was, under like imperial oversight a little bit, but it was, those mall cops, whatever they were, corporate cops. So so they were, technically like under their jurisdiction, but a lot of those corporate cops would acknowledge that, people in Ferrix do their own thing and they do things their own way. And they kind of respected that and kind of like didn't get in their way until obviously Syril brings in all his goons and, causes a shit show. But now you can see that there's direct imperial presence there, and it's so different from seeing the people going about their lives. Now you see soldiers marching around and them taking their buildings, and who knows the extent of their position there is going to be now. Like, what are they going to do once they're there? Are they going to take over industry as well? Is there going to be another mining accident like they always do everywhere? So it'll be interesting to see how the people of Ferrix, who tend to be very independent and doing things their own way, and we still have Marva there and Bix and everybody, and see how they respond to that imperial presence there. So I think it's really exciting that we haven't completely abandoned Ferrix and we're going to get more storytelling from there. And it is really, really important to see how they do this colonialism. And it's not only in Ferrix, we're seeing a lot of it in Aldhani as well, because they were completely displaced from their homes and their sacred places were, dammed up, and their sacred ceremonies have been almost abandoned because they can't even make it to their sacred place because it's so far away. So I think it's really cool to see it from how they're doing it in different planets and how it affects all the different people, and how the Empire slowly but surely, it doesn't have to be straight at your face, because they start taking away your rights and you don't really notice it until it's too late. So I think they're doing a really good job of demonstrating how it happened.
John, what did you think of Ferrix and apartment buildings?
I definitely think they had to go back to Ferrix, because then it would be like a close scene, and we still get that scene on Ferrix. And we get to see the colonial invasions at its finest. Definitely, there's like a power invasion, like invading those people and having presence and taking that land like its own. So I think it's definitely part of the political view also. Like, we get to see how they get to invade all those lands at Ferrix and take it for themselves.
But I think the other cool thing, well, not cool, but like interesting thing about that scene is just like what we would call in Spanish is soplapote, right? That they're trying to put there like in power, and this other guy, from the ISB is offering him this building, right? So he can have his base of operations. But what the other guy was interested in was not where he's going to work from, was the title that he was going to have. And he's like, oh, right, can I actually be called the prefect? I know it doesn't have more pay, but but it sounds better.
I want the title.
Which again, it kind of shows like the point of view that they're all coming from. It's not about serving. It's not about doing what's
job advancement.
Job advancement and power, right? So it's just like he wants a different title because it sounds better, even though it has no extra responsibilities, which I think is very emblematic. I mean, Puerto Rico happens all the time, right? With all the advisors to like everyone in the Senate and everything. Again, soplapotes. I don't know if anyone had comments on that one.
There's a point I always like to drive home, and it's how incompetent the Empire is. We get that scene in Kenobi with him and Leia hiding under a coat, and everyone's like, this is not realistic in any way. And I was like, no, it's not, because the Empire is extremely incompetent, because all they do is like try to step all over each other and just like make themselves bigger without doing the work, without
like the Trump administration, right? They want all
but
that power, but they're useless.
we can go that direction with the real world, but also in the Star Wars lore, that's the dark side. Like it's making yourself bigger and in the easiest way possible. So it's all connected.
Yeah, and then you hate on a character like Deidre who actually wants to get the job done, because she's the character that I'm really enjoying. I really like her, even though she's Imperial, because she knows that there's something going on. She's trying to make these connections and nobody listens to her because they just assume she's trying to get job advancement, but she's actually seeing a pattern and trying to understand the rebellion, and the Empire's like...
And also, like, contrasting with the Jedi, you know, follow your instincts, follow what you feel. And they're like, we get it, but you didn't file your paperwork. And it's like, come on.
Yeah, it's like, step back. Don't actually do your job, you know?
From Office Space, oh my God, what were the reports? The TPS reports? Like, that's the Empire. You gotta file your TPS reports. And keep people busy for busy's sake, I guess. But
well, and it goes back a lot with what Andor said. You know, they're so fat and satisfied that they don't see the rebellion as a threat. It's like, oh, we are the Empire. We are unstoppable. Anything they do is completely random and not organized, because who would organize against us? Come on. I mean, that attitude.
Too big to fail.
Yeah.
And clearly, you know, all it takes is, you know, one shot to the reactor core.
And actually, I love the fact that it's a woman.
Yeah.
That like Deidre is like showing that part, and the rest of the Imperial are like, okay, it doesn't matter, do your work and that's it. But I love that we get to see like the empowerment of women there in that like specific part of Deidre. And you know,
she's smarter than all those dudes.
Definitely.
I just don't want her to be a bad guy, you know, because she's good at her job. Unlike Syril, who like wants to do his job, but
you leave my boy out. You leave my boy out of this.
Oh, we'll get to him.
We'll get to Syril.
We'll get to him.
But I love that point, because she had to work way harder than all of them to get there. So she's of course smarter than all of them. They're also comfortable, like they're so comfortable in that position, and she's someone who had to work hard to get there. So it makes sense for her to be the one like, hey, there's something happening here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There we go. And no, yeah, I agree. I and it's gonna be interesting because I think we're gonna get that team up between her and Syril.
And Syril,
yeah, definitely.
They're both the ones that are getting shunned by their respective security forces, I guess. One with the ISB, and then him with his mall cop unit. They've both been pushed into the edge because of them doing their job, and we can argue about the nature of how they're approaching those jobs. I think one is a little more virtuous than the other, and we can debate that. But it'll be an interesting dynamic to see, like, when they come together, how they're coming together, because I think they have completely different motivations. And
going back with the cocoa pop, like he's thinking I'm probably like I'm gonna meet with Deidre, and you know, we're gonna gather information like to like prove our theory and you know, do something about it. Not like the Imperial security that they're not doing anything at all. And it was like watching the cocoa puff.
Which could be some symbolism, right? Because the Cocoa Puff has like the dark side and the light side in it. They're coming together, so hopefully, like, there's gonna be some synergy between like those 2 points of view. But let's talk about Syril now that we open the floodgates on him. That was a very interesting scene, because I felt like that scene could have been like in a Martin Scorsese film, right? With like some gangster getting kicked out of his gang or messing up, and he's going back to his Italian mom. And just having a terrible day with his mom just like shaming him. So awesome scene, which I don't want to say it took me out of Star Wars, because it didn't, but like it was so real and so human, because it's just like, this is just a mom who like is, you know, who wants her son to be great, and nothing he does will ever be up to the standards that she has for him, because, you know, some moms like to project, I guess, and have standards that will never be reached. But like that interaction was so un-Star Wars like. We haven't seen that, I don't think, in like any media, that I felt it was very human to an extent. And that's why I like Andor Friday. It's like humanizing Star Wars a lot. It's like taking, I don't want to say taking the fantasy out of Star Wars, because there's still a lot of fantastical things in it. It's still, I think, inherently Star Wars. In a way, it's stripping down some of that to like get to the core of what the humanity of these characters are and these situations are. Especially when you take away the Jedi and the Force, you're left with people, and people trying to do right by the things that they think are right. So what did everyone think of Syril and his mom's snarky Cocoa Puff interaction? Did we like it? Did we not like it? Do we agree with her? Do we agree with him? Do we agree with Uncle Shad or whatever his name was? Well, Ati, let's start with you, since you're the Syril fan.
Yeah, I love Syril Karn. I love me my Imperial officers. So Syril Karn is like, he's just such a twerp. Like,
very much so.
Lick him on the face. So I've loved him. He's kind of like the Dwight Schrute of Star Wars. I don't know if you guys watch The Office, but he's like, protocol and order and everything.
Yeah.
So, and meeting his mom's like, oh, now I get why.
It explains so much.
She speaks like him. She's a little bit more, I think, loose and not as protocol, but she speaks in the very same way. And it's like, oh, this makes sense. Which only makes me want to meet Tarkin's mom, Krennic's mom, and see
where they came from.
So and it's weird because Darth Vader had a very sweet mom. So I don't know what's up. But
he had a very, very sweet mom. Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I love that scene. I've been waiting for this scene since we got that picture in the Vanity Fair, I think it was, or Empire, that we got the shot of them sitting at the table. I was like, oh, what's happening here? Because it had that Inglourious Bastards feel from that first scene of the movie where they're hiding the Jews under the table. So I was hoping for a tense scene, and it was, but of course in a very different way.
Because we've all been there. We've all been there. You're having lunch at home, and then your mom comes in and she's like, okay, let's talk about what you did. And you're like, oh, here we go. And la cantaleta, as we say in Puerto Rico.
And that scene when she's like, you don't have any leads, don't you? And it's so tense because he's like avoiding the question, and she's like bringing him back home. And then later he's like, oh, I talked to your uncle. And he's like, yeah, I overheard.
Yeah, I heard.
Just trashing me. So I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it was so great. I really wasn't expecting that interaction, and especially for it to be as long as it was, and we get a lot of insight into his character. And it just, from the beginning, it's like, you're slouching. Why are you slouching? By the time you realize that you are slouching, it's already too late. You've already made a bad impression. You suck. I mean, that's basically the attitude, like, just about slouching. Like, I'm at the table, sadly eating my Cocoa Puffs. Leave me alone. Why are you criticizing? I'm home. I just got thoroughly defeated while trying to do my job. I'm super embarrassed. Why are you adding salt to my wounds? And it's so crazy because she's trying to tell him that he's not good enough at the same time that he's being like, I'm kind of sad because you never came to visit me, Mom. I mean, you're here making me feel like crap, and I'm telling you, I had an extra room. I was successful at some point.
I loved her retort. It's just like,
I know, an open invitation.
No real invitation. I'm just like,
I know. It's like crazy manners kind of thing. It's like when, those manners that they teach you, like if you go to somebody else's house, you don't open their fridge. If for her, it's like, oh yeah, open invitation is not a real invitation, but it's your own son, dude. And it's this crazy thing that it feels like she gets joy out of like harping on his failure, because when he was successful, he didn't go to visit to see. It's like, well, when I was successful, you didn't come and see that. Like, oh yeah, you're actually doing well for yourself. No, now that you're stuck in the mud, now I get to be like, I'm calling Uncle Harlow and he's going to set you straight, and you can never do anything wrong. And I have to get you a job because you don't know how to get yourself a job. And being a cop was not your intended profession. I'm going to tell you what your intended profession is going to be. It's kind of insane. I felt really bad for him.
I don't think it's insane at all. Because I've seen parents like that.
I know.
It's very
helicopter
very
parents.
Real. Yeah, I was just like, holy crap, this is
I know.
Real. Yeah.
I kind of
more real than colonialism in Ferrix.
I kind of love the fact that it was her mother who actually like poured the blue milk. Like you,
Yeah.
you can't even pour your own milk.
Yeah.
You know?
And she keeps like pushing food at him too. It's like not only the Cocoa Puffs, but then that plate of food, she like pushes it towards him. It's like, okay, I'm gonna rag on you, but you still have to eat, my son. You have to be well fed. And I love that she was so mellow about it too. Like she never raises her voice or anything, but it's like everything she said is just completely terrifying. I know because of it.
Little jabs.
It's like Umbridge. She's the most Umbridge in Harry Potter is more terrifying than Voldemort because she's
I agree.
Cool, calm, and collected, and she's a real person. You know, we've all met Umbridge in life. Voldemort's fantastic. We've never met a Voldemort, and it's the same thing here. We've all met Cyril's mom. We've all have a friend that had a mom like that, and it's just like, holy crap, you're intense.
I had a friend, a quick story. I had a friend that every time they would like take a friend of his to dinner, they'd be like, "Oh, and how are things going?" And he'd be like, "Oh, I have straight A's." And they turn to their son and they go like, "You see, he got straight A's."
Yeah. Why don't you get straight A's?
Why can't you do anything?
Yeah.
Right.
What are you doing wrong?
It's like, no, mom, but someone else got an F. It's like we don't compare in this house to those people. We compare to.
Mom, I gotta be. Well, I heard little Tommy got an A+.
Yeah.
It's like nothing's good enough for you, mom. These people listen to Simple Plan. I swear to God. Syril Karn is a Simple Plan fan. If you were to have like a favorite band, I guarantee it. But yeah, but to your point, Nani, like I think it's very interesting, like how she destroys his sense of independence by just being like, quiet about it. He's just like,
okay, very passive about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna just deconstruct your whole sense of identity now, and just make you. And it was interesting because then we see him in his, what I assume would be his childhood bedroom. All of a sudden, it's just like pretty much empty, and all he sees like the reflection of the sun over a skyscraper, and he's like just framing how just alone and destroyed he is, and all of a sudden, like the next light. Before he had the light of the sun reflected to him, and then all of a sudden he has the light of Andor's hologram on his face. It's just like deconstructing that self and then reconstructing a new self for himself. So I'm curious to see like if his connection to Syril will be through Uncle whoever the hell Uncle is. Thank you, Uncle Harlow. I'm gonna forget in 5 seconds.
Uncle,
of course.
Or if he's gonna rebel against his mom,
the Godfather,
and just like ignore Uncle Harlow and just like go seek out. Oh my God, I forgot her name now. Deidre.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, but he's definitely on a mission now. Like he wanted to get Andor before just because he wanted, he thought Andor, killed those 2 cops. So I need to arrest him because I need to fulfill the law and just and whatever. But since it went so incredibly badly and it ruined his career and it got him sent home to Mother and everything that happened, now it's personal going after Andor. So this is going to be intense.
Yeah, we're gonna see his revenge.
Yeah,
he's bloodthirsty for sure.
Oh yeah.
But do you think we were talking last time about him? And it was suggested that there's going to be some redemption for him and that he might come to the light and see the error of his ways. Oti, do you think that's the path for Syril? Do you think he's going to stay on this dark path?
I hope not. No, I really want to see him join the Empire because I think he'd be a great Imperial officer.
Yeah, I think not all characters need to be redeemed.
No,
it should be.
Same with Deidre. I love like a good,
I love her. Yeah.
Female Imperial officer because we get Price in Rebels. There's one in the comics who's like horrifying. She's like an apprentice to Tarkin, and we need more of that in live action.
Yeah, and it's not so black and white because to them they are the good guys.
Yeah.
So they believe in the Empire and what the Empire is doing. So I'd love to see those characters that it's not clear that they're on their dark side. Not really, not to them. So,
but I still feel that we need to see some POV of some Imperial actually saying how they think that they're actually being positive for the galaxy.
Oh, I hope we get that. I hope we get
that. Because we've seen them talk about like in the ISB like how we're medical providers, right? And and like it's still the way it's framed. It's not like we're actually good. It's like no, we're weeding out resistance.
we need like a Ray Sloan who's like, yeah, the Empire came to my planet, which was a savage land, and turned it into an organized.
Yeah, and now there's peace and order and civilization and all these things.
Which maybe that's what the dinner party scene is gonna be. Hopefully, like Mon Mothma is talking to some like super imperial fan people, and they're just like going at it like how the Empire is a force.
It's good for the galaxy,
Because then we start getting like those shades of gray, right?
Maybe we get senators who are like, yeah, the Republic gave us nothing, and now the Empire gave us like this massive budget for an army, which also helped build the school and yada yada.
Yeah, and the Republic toward its end was very incredibly inefficient. You couldn't get anything passed through, and everything took years for the simplest thing. So clearly the Republic hadn't been working. Is the Empire the better choice? For some people, it probably is. So it's good to see.
It definitely is.
Like, I always think like there's not like a bad thing or a good thing. Like if there's bad actions about it, but there's nothing like bad, or there's nothing good. And we get to see that the Empire, the people that work for the Empire, like maybe they're doing the good things for like in any case of that, like they're doing something good for the Empire. So and we get to see Deidre, like we actually said, like she's doing her work, and maybe like she's simply doing the good stuff. Her actions are good, even though she's working for the Empire.
Yeah, it's like, it just reminds me of like people like in our government and federal government that we obviously know that these institutions for the most part don't work, and some are corrupt and whatnot, but there are good people there that work there because they want to do the best they can and help people. So maybe that's what I kind of want to see. It's just like the good people within the system that kind of justify that system because of the potential that they see for good. And that way we have like that moral dilemma, right? That the show is establishing in terms of like those shades of gray between good, so-called good guys and so-called bad guys. So maybe at the dinner party, maybe in the next episode. But I think.
Well, now that you mentioned Mon Mothma, I think we need to talk about that scene with her daughter and how do we feel about that?
Start. How do you feel about it? You start. You brought it up.
I start. I wasn't really expecting her to have a kid. That when she starts asking for the daughter, I was like, wait, I did not really expect that. And then she's like really pissed at her mom. Clearly, I'm assuming it's because Mon Mothma's always busy and she's never home and all these things. And now she's like an angry teenager. But there was something really, I mean, I hate her husband even more every single time we see him. And the fact that he was kind of gloating that he was the favorite and the daughter is pissed at Mon Mothma is such a dick move from him. Instead of like trying to be supportive and trying to get the daughter to, she's always busy, but she's trying to make an effort. No, it was the complete opposite. He's just like, she likes me better. So it was a strange relationship to see there because we always assume, Mon Mothma is all good. But, even the best people can have issues in their family life. So I thought it was really interesting that they brought that up. What did you think, Oti?
I think it's interesting what we're learning from Mon Mothma because we know what she'll grow to do. She'll lead the rebellion. She'll lead the government at some point. So it's interesting seeing her not even being able to lead her family or her daughter. And I love what you said, Nani, because I think there are flaws to Mothma. Like some people are like, parents just manipulating their daughter. And there's maybe something about that. But I think there's also like circumstances that have led to Lita's her name, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Feel that way. And maybe that's how parent can weaponize it. So I love that. Parent's the kind of character I love to hate. He's such a douche. But I love that little scene at the end with them when before he talks to the driver, he goes like, what was his name again? Because that kind of threw me off a little bit. Like, where is he going?
Yeah, what's the game here? There's a play going on there.
Because before we got that scene when he's like, I think your colleagues know you a little bit better than I do. And at first I took that like maybe he's trying to see what she's really up to. But then he gets that moment. I'm like, what are they gonna do with Perrin? So it's just interested to see where that goes.
He's gonna die.
Probably.
No,
or
but
he's
I
in
agree.
the background in Return of the Jedi.
yeah, he's fighting in the Forest Moon. He realized the error of his ways and picked up a rifle so he can help them.
Doubtful.
I doubt it because I doubt it.
Well, I mean, even that comment about, oh, why didn't you tell me about this foundation? I didn't think you'd be interested. Why? Because it's charitable and you don't care.
No, because the foundation is how she's funneling the money.
Well, no, I understand that, but the comment of towards his character, it's like I didn't tell you because it's a charitable thing and you don't care about charity.
He doesn't even push back. He doesn't
push it back because remember, he's all about just having fun and having frat parties, you know? So why do I care about charity? Obviously, it's a great way for her to hide, you know, that money because he wouldn't even look into it because, it's to help people. I don't care.
This is like my
never
mom,
mind people.
Never mind.
This is like my mom hiding candy in the vegetable drawer. So
So
just put it behind a charity and Perrin will not look that way.
That is true.
But going back to Lita, because obviously we could have like so many episodes just trashing Perrin because he's just such a terrible human being. But like let's go back to Lita because I think she was very interesting because like in my first viewing of the episode, I was just like, oh my god, she's just like a bratty kid who's just like on her dad's team basically. But like on a second viewing, I was just like, well, no, I think she's just like she just feels scorn. It's just like when you're a teenager, you just want to fit in. You want to know like what's your place. You want to have people like you. You want your parents to respect you as a person and to kind of be real with you the way like you're trying to be real with yourself. And like I think she's just like in that difficult position where like Mon Mothma's probably very busy with kind of running the rebellion and trying not to get murdered for sedition, and just it's not able to just balance all of the pieces of her life. She's not
work and home,
balance work and balance the rebellion and balance her intimate relationship with her husband and her relationship with her child, and like she's paying the price on all fronts, I think. And that's
which again is something very human to see that see that somebody as great as Mon Mothma, and we know all her achievements, as we were talking before, can still have trouble at home and still have trouble being a good parent.
And it hurts her. I think that's the interesting thing because the only time we ever had seen Mon Mothma was Return of the Jedi, and she's like this stoic figure, right, clad in white, and she's like the leader of the rebellion, and that's all we know. But like just in 2 episodes, we've gotten like so much more depth into her character and how much pain there is there, especially like with the because I imagine that sucks. Obviously, I don't have kids, but I would imagine if I had a kid and they just told me like, "I hate you, mom. I want to go with dad," I'd be like, "Oh, that hurt. That hurt."
Yeah.
I like you. I want you to like me too. So it's I can imagine Mon Mothma's pain in that scene, and I can also empathize with Lita too because like it's not her fault. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know what's going on between her parents either. She's just a kid. So like So like I had to check myself because I was wrecking myself there, like trashing Lita in my mind there, like in my first viewing. But now it's just like let's contextualize.
She's a teenager, and we got to see her like her anger, or maybe like she's being like quite depressed that her mom is never there, and she's trying to find her means like to finance the cause inside the Galactic Senate. But it's I think it's a human scene, like and I love the fact that they bring this stuff to the like to the those episodes, because we actually get the reality of what happens inside our homes, what really happens, and what are like the things that these people are like showing inside their hearts, what is happening. And Mon Mothma is quite busy and stuff like that, and she's troubling with I think although she seemed like she was like quite I love my dad better, I don't think she was like all pleasant about it either. She was like sitting there and I get this stuff is happening here, mom is never here, and because there's tension between like his dad and her mom, so probably she's not happy about it. She's containing her anger, and she needs some psychology help.
As we've said many times before on this podcast,
everybody in Star Wars needs therapy.
Would be a much better place if we had therapy. Yeah, if we had therapy.
They all need.
Every
single person. Yep. Every single person. But yeah, like I think
which is a good thing to talk about, because everyone should go to therapy, even us.
Yes, 100%.
Mental health is important.
Mental health is important, and that's the great part of this, that they're actually showing these things also, like to spread awareness about it, because it happens in every house. I don't think there's a house that they don't have anything, they don't have a backstory about it, or there's always something, and even though you don't like show it to others, like there's something in there, and therapy is good. Why not?
I'll never forget doing the Revenge of the Sith watch along with Goose and Raider Rebellion, and every like 10 minutes we would go like, where is the psychologist for the Jedi? Because all of this could have just been avoided. And reading the High Republic's book, they did have a counselor back in the day, so I don't know why.
Oh wow. Yeah.
The budget got too tight.
Yeah.
They had to
it fell through the cracks.
And you see how it reverberated.
Anakin lost way too many lightsabers, and they had to like cut the budget.
Yeah, they had to raise the lightsaber budget and cut the therapy budget.
I would love to see like a psychology therapist between Syril and Cyril's mom with the cocoa bag.
Oh my god! they could release like YouTube shorts and just like do those like as extended
clips. Extended edition.
Oh Lord. Anyway, enough with like family dynamics. Let's go to the meat and potatoes, everything that everyone's been dying to talk about. Let's talk about Nemik. And Cassian Andor.
And his manifesto.
His manifesto, which some people on Twitter think it's just equates fascism with the left. And it's just like, okay, interesting take, everybody. But yeah, I don't want to set it up. I just want everyone to just start. Oti, you're the guest. You're gonna start. What did you think of of Nemik and that exposition dump that we got in that scene? So, and I mean exposition dump with the most love that I can put into that word, because I know some people you take that as a negative.
I love that word. Don't worry. So I'm of the camp that thinks Nemik is gone, but I kind of wish he stays a little bit to see if he gets like a more concrete reason to be in the rebellion. Because like I mentioned, it's very romantic. Like he romanticizes the fight. He's documenting everything, which is of course is important. But I would like to see him get like and not to say that his reason is not valid, because it definitely is. That's his own personal reason to be there. But I would like to maybe spend a little more time with him, getting a little less romantic, because we know what the rebellion will go on to do. They're the good guys, but they will do like bad things to win, as we see at the beginning of Rogue One. So I would like to see him maybe say a little more time with us, but I think he's gone. But I love that scene. There's so many. I've been a fan of the little scenes in this show, like seeing Cassian see himself for the first time in a reflection, and
that's one of my favorite scenes too. I love that
third episode. In the previous episode, that little moment we get with Luthen when he's like getting into character. I'm a huge fan of those little moments, and I think this episode is full of them, and this is just one of them. We can have this whole sequence without spending time with Nemik and his beliefs, but no, we get that, and I appreciate it.
Nani, it's your turn.
It is my turn. I love Nemik. I love him so much, and I know it's gonna rip my heart out, because we've been calling the death flag ever since we talked about episode 4 with Alex and Molly, and I don't think he's gonna make it past the next episode, and I'm gonna cry like a little baby, and it's gonna be very upsetting. And I think that I agree with Oti that there has to be an actual real reason that he feels this need to protect these freedoms. Like something must have happened, or it depends on how he was raised, or because it's not just like, you don't suddenly decide you want to be like a constitutional lawyer. Like you have to, something in your past maybe like
there's nerds out there that do that.
and I'm not saying that because one of my favorite classes is constitutional law. I love it. And that's
You're
why
one of those. There you go.
and that's why
You're one of those nerds.
Yep, I am one of those nerds, and I love. It's such an analogy, everything that he says to what's happening now, actually, in the United States with our Supreme Court that we have right now that are slowly but surely taking away our fundamental rights. And it's that one line where he says, the pace of repression outstrips our ability to understand it. That sometimes it's so subtle that you don't really think, oh, they did this, but that doesn't necessarily impact me personally, so I don't need to make a big deal about it. And slowly but surely, those rights are taken away until it's too late. And you already being crushed underfoot. You want to say something, Oti?
Yeah, there's a line he says that there's a lot of lines.
There's so many.
All of it.
There's one I love when he says it's easier to hide behind 40 fires than one.
Yeah.
And that reminded me of the Trump administration when everyone was like, they're just creating noise for, you see this
to hide all the atrocities. Yeah. So it's so analogous to everything that's going on now, things that have happened in the past, throughout history, because we forget, like, history needs to be studied because we tend to make the same mistakes over and over. And that's kind of what Nemik is trying to say and trying to speak about. It's not only that they're oppressing us, it's that they're just point blank not acknowledging these rights that everybody has, and that people need to be conscious that there are some fundamental rights that every single human being has. And in this case, more than human beings, because we're in a galaxy far, far away with a bunch of different races, but that the genius of the empire is not only conquering you, but one, making you dependent on them, which is the whole argument with the navigational tool. It's like, it's an oldie but a goodie. And one of our problems is that we've become dependent on the empire. We think that without them, we can't really survive. And it's made us vulnerable. And that people need to acknowledge that it's not just, oh, they came here and they took me out of my home and all these things, but for people to know in their heart that what's been taken from them should not be taken from them. So I think that's what's important about the manifesto. But and the idea that ideas are important and ideas can make a difference and
ideas are bulletproof. Is that I just got V for Vendetta vibes there in my mind? Sorry.
And Nemik is so intelligent, which is, it makes me want to think, like, what is he doing there? Like, how did he get to be with this band of rebels? That, I mean, it sounds like he could have a massive career in whatever he chose to do. Like, Andor is super surprised that his model looks almost exactly like the dam. When he explains what the Eye of Aldani really is, he goes all full nerd on it. And clearly this guy could be an engineer, an architect, at like all these different things. And he chose to, be a historian or an archivist of the rebellion, So it's really interesting. And clearly he's the youngest one there. And I would like to know how this band of rebels got formed, because clearly this is probably like the first time they've worked together, because none of them know everything about the others. Like, none of them, Skeen was the one that we've been talking about. The other ones don't know what his prison tattoos mean. So, I mean, they know something about their backgrounds, but not all the stories there. So clearly this is not a team that has been, together for a very long time. So
yeah, they're on a need to know basis. What about you, Joanne? What did you think of Nemik and his beautiful
I think this is the closest character that I get to like appreciate, I want to see like a full clip of him, like his backstory and everything. And, like Nani said, why is he there? Like, he's very young and he's talented, and, he's the youngest member of the infiltration team that is stationed at Aldani. And he has all those idealistic views, and he's risking it all for his beliefs. And, we get to see his side, and himself talking about the manifesto and you know how the empire like how everything there's a hold like how the galaxy have how the empire has everything a hold on the galaxy, and he's very passionate about it, and we get to see like you know I wanna keep seeing him around, you know. I don't want him to like be gone for the next episode, you know. And I love that he
I don't think he's gonna make it.
Yeah.
no, don't say that. But you know, I love his deep dives. You know, he's very talented and he's very gifted. He's a gifted astro navigator, and I love this character.
I think he quickly became everyone's. Well, I mean, unless you're a fascist, but I think he became everyone's favorite character overnight because of this episode. And
I'm afraid of him.
That. We're afraid.
He has a manifesto. Like, no way.
Yeah, everyone knows.
He doesn't like him. He has a manifesto.
But no, but I think that's an interesting counterpoint of him as like the young idealist of the group versus like everyone else is kind of like I don't say that they're curmudgeons or anything, but they're all
a little jaded
and they're tired, you know, they're tired of fighting and they're afraid. They know that their lives are on the line, so for them the fight is a little different than for him, because for him it's about the ideal, and for everyone else it's
true
I
believer.
How to frame it. Yeah, well, he's and that's why I think that maybe it's important for him to actually not have had anything happen to him, because then like
just to be completely idealistic,
that makes his idealism even more beautiful, I think, because it's not tainted. It actually comes from
that it's very sane. Something. Well, we don't know that. Like he could have a backstory, like a really bad backstory.
No, true.
But you know, the way you see it, I think it's like if it's the way you see it, then it's very sane, and you know the way he wants like everything to be in a good way. You know, he's you know very. I would say like he's caring.
Yeah, he wants everyone to be friends at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the thing is, like someone like a scheme that's very like revenge driven. At what point do you go like, okay, I've had enough revenge, and there's like years of battle still going on. So having an idealist is very important because like there's no stopping. We have to win. Yeah. But my reasoning for thinking that he has to die is like we're at such a pivotal point for Cassian's story and the rebellion story that we need to see the Empire be like very cruel. So I think like killing him is just like in a storytelling sense that would be like a very easy way to just like drive that point home.
No, I agree 100%. And I mean we could talk about like Nemik all day long since it's
let's talk about
the 2 pointed scenes. But yeah, that's what I wanted to close off the same way that the episode closed off, and it was Luthen's conversation with his assistant, which I did not see coming. I thought Luthen was not going to be in this episode, but all of a sudden, like, what a way to go out! Like that was a perfect way to kind of end the episode. Kind of see Luthen switch right from being like the assertive, underground, leader of the rebellion to all of a sudden like just be afraid and be like, oh, I don't know how everything's
freaking out.
But then his assistant just comes out of nowhere, and she's like checking him. And she's like, hey, you gotta be ready for this. Because like either
you wanted this, you deal with it.
either it's gonna end tomorrow or it's gonna start. And I was just like, holy crap, that was
her assistant is like, I want to see your transformation again. I want to see your rings. I want to see your hands moving, wearing the wig. You know, do your stuff.
Best wig in TV right now. I'm gonna say that. Some really bad wigs in some of the shows that we're enjoying, but still bad wigs. Luthen wins. He has the best one. But Joanne, since you seemed like you were the most enthused to talk about Luthen, tell us your thoughts. Go hard. What did you think of that scene between Luthen and his assistant?
Yeah, I want to see more on Luthen. I want more of him. I want everything. You know, like I'm fascinated by his act, like the way he acts and everything, and like you know the way like he's like you said, he's an underground rebel like operative, we get to see his transformation, like from that to a member of a Coruscant high society, you know. And I love that transformation of characters. I love how we get to see that, and you know, they have to be really detailed with him. I want to see more.
Nani, what did you think of that final scene?
I thought it was great. I love how pretty much every single episode, the end is just ominous. You know, it's like, oh, it always ends kind of on like a sour note. It's like, ah, damn.
Why did it have to end? Like, keep going.
Yeah,
it was a perfect scene. Why
I
is
know.
it over?
I know, but it makes you so nervous because you know that when Luthen is freaking out, something's going down. So, you know, to see him, this person who has shown up, like you were saying, Goose, like usually he's so confident on top of everything, and to see him being like actively, you know, freaking out because he was like pissing himself almost, like trying to, you know, find information that he knows is not coming, like being obsessive about listening to the radio. And it's just, again, it's something that humanizes this character because you think, obviously he's this badass, he's playing both sides, all this, but to see him actually be afraid, to see that he has a stake in the fight, to see that he actually cares about these characters, that he's afraid of them being able to be traced back because Vel apparently has a connection with them somehow because they, the assistant says that Vel is somebody that can be traced back. And he's like, no, the thief can be traceable now too. I wanted it too much. I moved too fast. Like he's second guessing himself now because it's like Andor had said right before the heist, you know, the day before is the hardest because you have too much time. You have too much time to think about everything that can go wrong. You assume that everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And he's so removed from the actual fight. Like he set up all the pieces, but there's nothing that he can do about it now. So he's completely out of control in this moment. Right. And to see that, you know, the lack of control is so good to see that it can rattle him like that. And to have the assistant that you kind of at the beginning, you know that she's helping out and everything, but to see that she has a bigger role to play in this as well than we would have imagined. So it's really good to see that. And I've loved this arc so much so far because don't get me wrong, that first arc at the beginning was completely necessary. We needed to know where Andor was, you know, in 5 BBY, but it was more of a prologue. And then this arc is really getting into that like spy thriller that we thought this series was going to be. And I've been really, really enjoying it. And then seeing these characters like Mon Mothma and Luthen and how they're trying to balance, you know, this public life in Coruscant versus, you know, this trickling rebellion that's starting now, and how they're able to do it in a way that only Deidre has noticed that there's something wrong because it's too random to be random, but it's clearly very well thought out. So ending with that, now there's so much tension waiting for us when we get the heist scene next episode. So I thought it was so well built up and there's so much tension. And since we don't know, you know, we know Andor is going to make it all the way to Rogue One, but everybody else, we don't know who's going to make it, who's not.
Maybe it's a clone. Who knows?
It's Papa Palpatine.
Somehow Andor has returned. That's how they should have opened Rogue One. What did you think of Luthen Rails before my stupid clone theory?
I liked it. I like when Nani mentioned like the assistant kind of has a larger role than just the assistant. She's like keeping him in check. And I love how it connects to that scene in Aldhani when Cassian goes like, hey, I know you're afraid, but don't use me as an excuse. If you want to get out, get out. And I think the same's happening here. Like maybe he does have a reason to be afraid, but I think he's more anxious than anything, and he's just like going over everything. Like, should I have trusted him? So I like that.
And I love that it's
a good way to end.
Yeah, and how Cassian said too, it's like there's a difference between fear and losing your nerve. Like you have to actively choose to keep going. I'm afraid. You'd be stupid if you weren't afraid, but you have to make an active choice to keep going. And I do love that even though Luthen is second guessing himself, getting Cassian to join was definitely the right call because these people didn't even know how to get the thing out of the tracks. You know?
That was my favorite scene of the episode. Because again, we don't need that, but having him be like, Wait.
Is this
You
a
don't
test?
know is this a
Do
test?
you really not know? Wait, you really don't know?
and then he was like, "What were you gonna do if I wasn't here?" Like, and it's that Rogue One.
You didn't want me. Everyone's been bitching about me. All of a sudden, she's like, "I'm the most important person right now."
Yeah. And it's that Rogue One feeling. Like, we'll just get the next chance and the next, but at a certain point, you need to know how you're gonna escape.
Right. And I love how it's like, I'm gonna pilot now. I don't trust you people. Like this is one of the integral parts of the plan, and you didn't know how it was gonna work. You were just gonna wait till they're shooting at you to figure it out.
We're gonna, and I love how easy it was. He's like, "There's a lever like down there."
When you know, man. But they didn't know, so maybe he shouldn't have told them.
There's no need of an instruction. You know, you could even see it. It's there. I'm gonna drive.
Yeah.
No, but this clearly, like, we could keep talking about this episode forever. It was so good, and there's so much stuff in there to keep talking about. Not just Easter eggs and Star Wars things that are always fun to talk about, but like all the themes and conversations and quotes, right, that happening, which are such a wealth, right, for like our, not just our Star Wars conversations, but our life conversations. Because I think there's a lot of like real world things that were discussed here about not just like family relationships, but also like how we interact with like the politics of the world around us. But we only have so much amount of time, and like we have to, at some point end this because we need to keep our listeners engaged. So unfortunately. So but before we head out onto the journey of waiting for episode 6, Oti, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your podcast and where everyone can find you.
Yeah, I'm Oti, guys. So you can find me over at Twitter and Instagram. The handle is at Estar Guars. I'm sure Gus will leave the link or something below.
Yes,
it's kind of hard to pronounce. But yeah, no, I host a Spanish podcast called El Podcast Estar Guars. We're doing an English segment now, which I kind of soft launched, but I'm hoping to do more episodes soon and start releasing them more consistently, called The World Between Worlds, where we talk about other shows, movies, books, comics, whatever, and see it through the lens of Star Wars, which has been fun. And I'm also doing Radio Rebellion, which is an all-English Star Wars podcast.
Cool. And like he said, it took the words right out of my mouth. I will be leaving links to all of that into the description below. So thanks, please make sure to follow them because they are amazing. Some of our first podcasting friends as well. So make sure to support other Hispanic podcasts because our voices are just as important as all the white ones. So let's make sure that we start elevating them so that we can all have a place at the table because everyone deserves a place. And I think we all have very good things to say. And we just need the opportunity to be able to be heard. So please follow all of us and listen to all of us and stop listening to everyone else.
Not really.
Dude, we didn't even get to talk about the first Star Wars podcast.
Oh my God.
No, we won't. No, we talk about that like by text messages or something. That was spicy. No, we'll talk
idea.
But yeah, Nani, sign us off before I start getting angry here.
Oti, thank you so much for joining us. It was so much fun talking about Andor. It's so good. Diego Luna, our space papi, #1 at this point in time. And until next time, we are Star Wars of the Force. We are going to keep talking about all the Andor episodes. Please join us. Let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know. And you can just find us anywhere that podcast can be found. Just search Triad of the Force and you will find us. So until next time, may the Force be with you.